Welcome to the Dream Journal. From the studios of KSQD in Santa Cruz, the Dream Journal is a weekly show where we explore the power of nighttime dreams through conversations with dream experts and with listeners like you. A dream can be meaningful even if you don't know what it means.
So there's no those vital minutes. Time is keenly found. We are not alone. Water over stone, even if you're bound.
Today's music is called Given as It Begins. Bridging the inner and outer worlds, intuitives live in a liminal space. Learn how myths, dreams, and stories can awaken your inner seer with our guest, author and psychologist, Athena Laz.
Hi.
Hi, Athena. So glad to have you. And
So glad to be-
Yeah, good to have you on the show. So welcome to the Dream Journal. And I'm going to share just a little dream nugget that I had recently, which is one where I got to fly. I hardly ever fly in dreams. I'm always so jealous. But now I get to be a flyer. It was just a simple moment. My husband, Max, is walking away through a gray, kind of dark gray mist, and it's like he's maybe fading away and farther away. And I leap into the air, and as soon as I'm in the air flying, the world explodes with colors and rainbows, and it's just this beautiful, exciting feeling. And I speed toward him, and I come down and land right behind him. He turns around and he says, "Hello."
Well, I love that.
Yeah, it was just like such a sweet dream moment, and like one of those treasure dreams where it's just the dream itself is the treasure. I get to fly, I get to be with my loved one, and we get to really connect. And so I just was happy to share that dream this morning.
Well,
Yeah,
it's
go
a
ahead.
beautiful dream. I love flying dreams. I always think that's a huge generalization, but I feel like when they're really good like that, like you said, the dream in itself is just the joy, you
Yeah,
know?
absolutely. It is. And I think I really want to highlight those beautiful dreams because I'm always inclined to focus on the negative dreams and the difficult dreams, and there's value there. And yet those beautiful dreams are so meaningful, so meaningful. Well, let me introduce our guest. Athena Laz is a best-selling author, intuitive, and psychologist who helps people connect to spirit and psyche through the medium of dreams and symbols. Her books are Women Who Dance in the Dark, Awaken Your Inner Seer Through Myths, Dreams, and Stories, and just a few years ago, The Alchemy of Your Dreams, which is another really amazing book. So you have two fabulous books out. You can find Athena at her webpage, athenalaz.com. So you have this book, this new book, The Women Who Dance in the Dark, and it has a lot to do with intuition, right? And being a medial woman, the bridge between the conscious and the unconscious, the awake and the sleep. But is it only for women? Let's just start there.
That's a great place to start. No, it's not just for women. It's absolutely for anyone. And in the book, I just kind of highlighted why I wrote in the feminine. And that's purely because the late analyst who came up with the term medial was a lady called Toni Wolff, which I'm sure you know her. But she was a close associate of Carl Jung's, and they had like quite a complex relationship. And she wrote a paper which mapped out the medial archetype, and she wrote it in the feminine form. And so when I wrote the book, I felt like it was a good way to honor her and honor her work by carrying that thread. But for anyone who's listening, this archetype is really available to all of us and is very, very helpful to us if we kind of tap into that energy.
Okay. All right. So let's talk a little bit about that archetype. What does that represent? Does that open doors for us? Tell us about the medial woman archetype.
Well, so it absolutely opens doors, I think, is an archetype. The best way that I can describe it is that this archetype mirrors the intuitive and mediumistic aspects of our own selves, and that this archetype appears very beautifully in dreams as kind of a bridge maker or as a symbol or person who helps us join things that we are currently in conflict about. So there's a lot of benefit by working with this archetype. So we can increase our intuition. We can understand how to mediate conflict within ourselves and with other people out in the world at large, which I think is very helpful given our current collective moment, right? And so, those are just two of the little things you can kind of begin to do when working with the archetype.
Interesting. The idea, the association of medial with mediate, like to mediate conflict. I had not even thought of that. Because the conflict within ourselves or even conflict between other people. If you want to share some examples about that or say more about what that would look like?
Sure. I'm trying to think of a tangible dream that I could maybe share that would highlight this. When I was writing the book, I had a dream of being in this amusement park, and at the time, it wasn't a conflict with other people, but I was having an inner conflict about making a decision about something very important. So my head was saying one thing about it, and my heart was really saying another thing, but I just really couldn't reconcile it at all. And I was going round and round and round. Anyway, so I have this dream, and I'm in an amusement park, and I have to follow the pathway down this park, and then eventually a dream guide figure it appears in the dream. And he is actually a medial man. That's how I took the meaning to be when I woke up. And he helped me jump over the bridge. And in the dream, he said to me, when in a crossroads, wasting time is a decision. You have to wake up. So it was like, don't waste time. Wasting time is the decision. You know what to do.
Was that like to not decide is to decide, that kind of a thing?
Exactly, that kind of thing,
That's kind of pressure. That's a lot of pressure.
It was always a kind of, like parental, but a kind of hardcore parental. But I did wake up, and it really helped me kind of reconcile. I knew what I needed to do, and I think I had just sat on the edges of it, so I'm not sure if that's the best example of it, but it's a good way of beginning to work with it,
Right. You resolved your issue, whatever it was. The dream helps you, even if it wasn't really in the symbolism of the dream. It was there.
Yeah, it was fully there, and I think for anyone listening, something simple, like I had a person share with me a dream that I think I wrote about in alchemy, but they were in direct conflict with their neighbor about something. And she kept having dreams of having to drive him to the hospital. And she was like, well, what? How do you make meaning out of this? And I said, I don't know. Well, how do you make meaning of this? And it came to be that she recognized that, well, she needed to heal this relationship with her neighbor. And driving him to the hospital is she like driving to a place of healing. And she was the person in the car driving, so she needed to instigate it. And that's how she took the dream to what she took the dream to mean. And it really did help her, So I do think just dreams in general, never mind the archetype, can help us with conflictual feelings or relationships.
Right. Well, it's interesting that this is all tied into intuition, and it was kind of a late realization for me, like in my 20s or something. I finally realized that I could trust the little voice that would come up, because I say, oh, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do unless we're going to do that. Oh, well, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. But then I would like overwrite the little voice that would say, unless I do that. And then I have to rewind in my mind. Now, what was that? What did I say? And then I'm like, oh yeah, I'll do that. So it was interesting, that little voice didn't have a lot of power for me for a long time until I started turning towards it. And I wonder if you've had that kind of experience.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that a lot of the people that I speak to, I think at some point in time, many of us can empathize with the fact that kind of gets beaten out of us through society or conditioning, and I think it does take work to rekindle that connection and to trust it, to really learn to trust it, because the more you can do that, just like a muscle, the easier it becomes. And I really, really feel like part of the benefit of that is knowing. Well, the benefit of it is always go in hindsight, we go, oh, I should have listened to myself. I knew that, but I didn't do it. But then when you step into that place of intuitive recognition, and actually use it, that kind of feeling state of going, oh, I should have done it, that regret does dissipate. I don't think it's always easy to do, but I do think it's very, very helpful. Um, I was recently I went for a dermatology appointment. And when I met my dermatologist, I had just moved to the area that I was in. And she's a wonderful person, a phenomenal doctor. And she shared a dream, and she said, I keep having this dream, which she doesn't mind me. None of these stories, none of the people mind me sharing them. But she said, I kept having this dream of my partner having a mole that needed checking. And in the dream, he would actually pass away.
Wow.
And she would wake up very distressed from it because obviously it's a very distressing experience, And being a dermatologist, she said to him, come, you have to come into the office. Let me just double check. And she looked at it and everything looked fine. And she said, you know what, I'm just going to biopsy it on the off chance. And she did. And it ended up being early stage, whatever cancer it was.
Oh.
And she caught it in time, and she listened, and she knew that there was something to it, And I know that's kind of like a hard-hitting example of it, but it's like, oh, had she not listened to her dream and to the intuition at the office going, intellectually, all the signs are saying no, but she still took that extra step and did an action that was very beneficial, So I think that's available to all of us at all time. And it's really just a matter of, I think, practice, but also learning to quieten the voice that says that this is like random or you're making it up.
Right. That voice is so strong. The voice of, I know what to do. And right.
Totally.
Right. So what do you have? Do you have any like advice for us to help us develop this voice and learn to pay attention to the voice? You said it's like a muscle. Are there, particular practices that you recommend to help develop this?
Sure. Well, I definitely, as the first and foremost, I would say if you're not already tracking your dreams, please begin to do that. We're both dream lovers here, so we know the benefits.
Yep.
But I always say at the beginning, keep it really light and really simple and really fun. So if you want to work with your intuition, especially if you haven't practiced or been in touch with it for a while, just begin to have fun. So it's a game that I recommend now to people is the game Wordle.
Yeah, I love that.
Right. It's such a fun game. It's the New York Times game. You can literally download the app, and you have 5 guesses or 6 guesses to pick the word of the day. And that's really a practice of joining intuition and intellect, at least in my opinion. And I feel like it's such a fun, easy thing to do. People can just begin to do it. And the more you do it, people come back to me and they say, oh, this game is teaching me so much about myself. And I've heard back from someone the other day who said, well, I recognize that when I feel much calmer and in a state of gratitude, she gets the words right quicker.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, super, super interesting. And so I think all of us have different maps and pathways to our own intuition in terms of what works, but really fun games. Seeing if you can figure out what the next email in your inbox is going to be, just if you know who it's coming from. Just things that aren't drastic or big, but and people are often surprised how often you get it right,
Well, I must say I have fairly often exchanged emails, like read at the same time. We're both thinking about each other, and here's the email, and I was just writing one to you, and that happens fairly often. So there may be something going on in the intuitive or the collective or something where I'm able to tune in. So this is great. So this is very, very interesting because intuition, as you say, is not something that anyone ever taught us how to develop, and yet Dreamwork is something that does seem to enhance that. In fact, there's a woman up in BC, Bridget, can't think of her last name, but she did a thesis which I read on dreams. And she shared the idea, and it probably was one of her references, that the dreaming actually builds bridges between the conscious and the subconscious, because dreaming itself, the physical process, happens in the deep parts of the brain that we don't usually access directly when we're awake, and then sort of nonverbal parts. And so if we take the dream into our waking life and we develop it verbally and cognitively, then we're letting our cognition tie into those intuitive emotional parts of who we are, so that the actual working with the dream and remembering the dream, writing it down, helps to develop our intuition. And I certainly noticed that in myself. I didn't expect it. And I've seen that in my clients too, that the dream work itself seems to enhance intuition. Have you had experience with that?
Well, that's such an amazing way of explaining it, because that to me sounds like it's so bi-directional, right? The one
Yeah.
helps the other and the other helps, which
Yeah.
I love. I definitely think dream work has helped me, at least personally, in terms of intuition, but also with very pragmatic things like you're saying. And I think because of that link that you just described, it's enhancing both forms of perception, right? So if you have like that cognitive form of perception and that intuitive form of perception, they work in harmony, as
Mhm.
opposed to being sort of against one another, that head-heart division.
Yeah, right.
Maybe.
And so is there any like downside to this? Like, is there like a dark side to to being a medial, to like learning that aspect of ourself?
So I would say no, but I will say this, right? When Toni Wolff wrote her paper, she mapped out that women's, because she was writing in the female form, women who, when they empower themselves and they become conscious of the medial link, right? So it's not something that kind of just plays in the background. They then become empowered, and what happens is that you don't then receive. You're not engulfed by what you're receiving, right? So a really good way of thinking about this is that it's could be very easy to receive information in the collective unconscious, let's just call it, about what's happening. And a medial person, or someone who's naturally, let's just call them intuitive, or say even mediumistic, could probably quite easily pick up on that information. And so in her paper, she said the one negative thing could be that if you're not aware of this ability within yourself, you could then be flooded. And then you may unconsciously kind of play out patterns or behaviors that really have nothing to do with you, but you're
Mm.
perceiving them, so you think they're about you. Um,
Oh.
so it was kind of interesting, her take on that. But I kind of tend to think that a lot of people who are attracted to dream work, at least in kind of my experience, um, they do have a recognition of kind of what you were saying about bringing it into the waking world, right?
Mhm.
Grounding it into some like embodied experience. And so I would say, no, I don't think overwhelmingly negative,
Mhm.
but like anything, balance is probably a good idea.
Right, right. It's interesting. It seems like you're almost talking about the opposite of projection, where you have something that happened to you, and so you see it everywhere in the world. Whereas if you're very sensitive, which I agree, I think a lot of people who are interested in dreams are very insensitive and pick up on energies from outside themselves. So if you pick up something from outside of yourself and you think it's me, like that's almost the opposite of a projection.
Right.
And
Right, exactly.
but that's also maybe a legitimate way to look at things, because it's partly happening outside in the world, but it's also partly happening inside of me, you
Right.
know?
It's this wonderful thing of it being this and that, right? Where it's both at the same time. And I think what attracted me to writing that book about bridging, right, which really is what we're talking about, like bridging the unconscious and the conscious, or subconscious and conscious, whatever we want to call it. Um, that bridging facility within us is kind of what helps us, I think, move forward positively, because we
Mhm.
have that recognition, that it can be both things at the same time. Even on the face of it, they may be different,
Right, right. And this is the whole kind of the whole conversation about the medial, the liminal space is like it's this and that.
Right.
It's inner and outer. And so maybe if we, as we learn to accept even the difficult things like nightmares,
Right.
inner and outer nightmares,
And
is there a
other,
way that this is like helping us grow as a human race? I think that dreams are the workshop of evolution. It's something Jeremy Taylor used to like to say. And so the work that we're doing is evolving the world. I got to believe that, because
Me too.
it feels so true.
I have to believe that. I love that so much. I can't remember what show it was in, but there was a show that said, like, listen to the dreamers. And I love that so much, because you have to hope that the dreamers, do have a different way of seeing, I guess.
Yeah, right. And there's something about taking it in as it is, and like the nightmares and the things like that. It's like you learn to accept them and see there's something happening, something valuable that's changing. And it's really hard to think that sometimes in the outer world. And yet, I have been hoping that we're in a birthing process, which is never easy as a mother of one. Birthing process is not easy. And yet, what riches can come from it. So what value and treasure. So Athena, before we go to our break, we have another like 5 or 7 minutes before the break. I wanted to ask you a little bit about the conference, the IASD conference, because you're coming in June up to Ashland, Oregon, and you'll be leading a morning workshop, which is where you have 4 mornings in the row with the same group of people for an hour each in the morning to talk about dreams. And I want to ask you, what do I say a little bit about your group, or what are you excited about with regards to the conference?
Well, firstly, I love the Dream Conference so much. If anyone is listening and you haven't been, please come. It's the most amazing experience where just people from everywhere get together. I mean, I know I'm saying this to you, Katherine, and I'm totally a conference, but I just love the energy of the place. And my dream group in the morning is going to be a wonderful space to connect with like-minded people, where we'll honor the group's wisdom, and we'll also honor the dreamers as being authority on their own dreams. And really, we're going to look at just what arises. I'm a firm believer in group consciousness, and I also believe in shared dreaming. And I think a place like the conference is a great place for that kind of thing to happen. So I'm keeping the doors open. We'll see what happens.
Well, it's a great opportunity for synchronicity to kind of manifest, because you get together 300 people who are dedicated dreamers, and so there's a lot of intuition flying around. And things unfold. You never really know what's going to happen. But I've always had some amazing experiences at these conferences, and I'm so glad you're gonna get to be there, Athena. So let's go ahead to the break then, and just to say, this is Athena Laz, and you can find out about her work at athenalaz.com. It's Laz for Laz, and we're talking about dreams, intuition, the medial archetype, and all kinds of things. I have many more questions for Athena for after the break. The Dream Journal is broadcast live from the KSQD studios in Santa Cruz, and co-broadcast live in San Jose by KCXU, and also broadcast every other week up at KOWS in Sonoma. And we are, of course, podcast everywhere, including now we're podcast on YouTube with full-length video recordings. So go to my YouTube page at Experiential Dreamwork to find the video recording. So we will be right back. Okay, welcome back to the Dream Journal. I want to welcome our far-flung listeners to say hello who's listening online. We have Santa Cruz, San Jose, Gilroy, Sunnyvale, Monterey, Sacramento, Fresno, Los Angeles. Then we have Oregon, Boardman, Oregon. And we have British Columbia, Ontario, and Quebec from Canada. Thank you so much. We have Mexico City from Mexico. We also have Atlanta, Toronto, Ontario, and Ashburn, Virginia, and Emmaus, Pennsylvania. Thank you so much for listening to the show. It's really exciting to think of you all out there and know that you're listening and rooting us on and spreading information about dreams, because it is really all about dreams, and we are promoting interest in dreams everywhere we can go. And I want to say that if you have any uh, interest in learning more about your own dreams, one of the quickest things to do is to tell a dream to someone in your life, whether it's a partner, a friend, somebody on the bus. You never know. Just consider saying a dream out loud. You'll be amazed what unfolds. And of course, you can help us by nudging the algorithm and promoting the Dream Journal on your favorite podcast app. Give us some stars or review. Share. Thank you so much for sharing episodes on social media. And we're just all about promoting interest in dreams and helping everybody find dream sharing buddies, because it's always good to have someone to share dreams with. So don't forget to check out our new YouTube channel, which now has full-length video episodes at Experiential Dreamwork, and you get to see us in action and watch all the gestures and the faces and all that sort of thing. But our audio-only podcasts are also available as usual on regular podcast platforms. Next week, tune in for a conversation about precognition with fellow astrophysicist Paul Callis, PhD, from Berkeley. He'll be joining us in the studio, so tune into that. Today's guest is Athena Laz, and her webpage, athenalaz.com. She's a psychologist and an intuitive, and that's what we're talking about, intuition and the way dreams help us solve problems as they do. Athena, I want to start by just asking a little bit about how did you get started being interested in dreaming?
I love this question. Thank you for asking. I was a very vivid dreamer as a child and had a lot of lucid dream experiences without knowing that term, without knowing really what it was, and had wonderful dreaming. And then kind of life happened, and I hit my 20s, and I decided I was going to pursue becoming a psychologist. And I really didn't focus on dreaming at all. And I had a pivotal, like a big, huge dream that happened when I was about 25. And through that dream, lucidity came back to me. I recognized actually how I needed to move forward, at least in terms of my work and what I was doing. I was working in a very trauma-informed space at the time. And so I've had, I think like many people, I had quite a sort of complex up-down relationship with dreaming. But that kind of pivotal moment in my life is what led me, I guess, to be speaking here with you today.
Right.
Many years later, you know?
Right. And writing books about it too, and getting yourself known that way, because that's really takes a huge amount of effort. You must really were inspired by your dreams.
I was inspired. I think my dreams do lovingly like to kind of kick me up the butt. Get me
They do
going.
that, don't they? Yes, they do.
Yes. It's a good thing. So that's really, I think why I love talking about dreams as well, is that it's so universal. We all dream. It's such a great connector, and it's such a unifier. So that's kind of my story.
Everybody dreams. I mean, like that
Yeah.
old childhood book, Everybody Poops. Well, that's true too. Everybody
Exactly.
dreams. And so I wonder if you would you feel comfortable sharing a little bit about where you're at right now? Do you have any anything that you want to share about your personal dream work, just kind of a model for others how you work with your dreams and what's
Sure.
for you? Sure.
So I'm very lucky that my husband is someone who also loves dreaming, and we've actually always spoken about our dreams together. And so part of our kind of morning ritual is we'll wake up and share our dreams, and we'll talk to one another about them. And if that doesn't happen, I will record my dreams. And I really am a firm believer in that, at least even basic keywords, so that I can remember. But because currently I've been having a lot of dreams about sort of re-entering the same spaces. But so I'll find myself, for example, in this house. It's a familiar house to me, but it's like a whole other life. And when I'm in that space, I have memories of what I've done in previous dreams, but I'm not always lucid about it. So that's kind of my personal dreaming at the moment, and how I kind of work with the dreams. I'll speak or I'll kind of share what I feel about it, and then I think I like to let my dreams simmer, in that I'm not always in a rush. Um, Sometimes it'll take me a week to kind of sit with a dream and figure out, oh, okay, this is maybe something. And other times it's much more immediate. But currently at the moment, things are simmering.
Yeah, sometimes that the things simmer, and um like sometimes I'll have a week or go by where I don't remember a single dream. I don't write
Okay.
anything down, and sometimes that then is an impetus for me to go back to the dreams right before that time, because the what I did write down, because sometimes there's something that's like, yeah, you gonna get around to us now. Like, come on, this is
Yeah.
something important here.
Well, did you need to leave that alone, or did you need to come
Right,
back?
right.
I love
Uh-huh.
that.
And then there's also times when I don't pay attention to my dreams because it's just something too painful. That's like when I, 15 years ago, I was breaking up with a boyfriend that a guy had dated for a year, and I had no dreams at all for 2 weeks, and I think it was just too painful for me to see what was really going on inside, and eventually the dreams came back, and they were helpful. But sometimes it's okay to just let them lie. But if I get an image, and I try to motivate myself to write it down. Yeah. So houses, you did mention houses, though. Houses are very beautiful dream image. That's some of my earliest memories of dream sharing had to do
Oh,
with houses. My mom didn't talk about dreams much in my family, but occasionally mom would come down, and she would say, I had this dream last night about finding a whole new wing on the house. And those were always the mornings when everybody was happy, and it was like a good thang. So I'm like, so those dreams kind of stuck in my mind, like, wow, finding some new space. And so somehow she was like opening up some cognitive doorways, or not even cognitive really, but emotional doorways, and some all of that, I suppose. So
yeah.
the
Well,
house can
I
be a
mean,
powerful image. Yes.
I was just going to say, I feel like, it also sounds like an amazing memory to think about. And so, when it comes up, I'm sure it feels nice. Yeah.
Yeah, yes,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
it, it does, because a lot of times, the dreams that we remember the ones we remember without writing them down are bad dreams, or like painful dreams, or nightmares. I've got a good 6 or 7 of those from childhood too. These painful dreams, and so it's nice to have these good moments. Well, that's like the dream I shared at the beginning of the show, where I fly into the air and then I come down right next to my partner, and that is really good for me to spend some time basking in the good dreams and reminding myself that there's a lot of
Yeah.
happiness that's available in my sleeping hours too, and not just uncomfortable things. I think some people don't like to talk about dreams because all they can remember are the difficult ones.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, I fully hear you on that. And I think like you were saying, it's part of our we're so biased in that way that we tend to focus on the negative, because I think for whatever reason it is, but most of us do. And there's so much joy to be had in dreaming.
Mhm. Mhm.
And like you're saying, to allow, I guess in a way, it's kind of allowing yourself to experience that. And I think, even in waking life, I think hope is a wonderful space to be in,
Mm.
and that hopeful resonance of, well, there is a lot of stuff happening, but at the same time, there's joy, and there's new life occurring all around us. So I think, yeah, I think the things that tend to stick with us, like the other night, I had a particularly like crazy nightmare, and I woke up actually from the adrenaline, because it was so intense.
Yeah.
I was like, oh wow, that is so was so crazy, in terms of just like, I kind of had to sit and process what I had seen, but then I realized I had watched like an ad for a show on the serial killer, and I had obviously kind of, I think I just kind of packed it away. But then in my dreams, I was like, this is actually horrific. And I was in this horrific space kind of playing that out. And I woke up and I thought, oh, I need to actually kind of clear out my consciousness and make sure that I kind of don't get, well, you can't control that, but you know what I mean? There's a
Oh,
level of
totally.
being
Well,
blindsided.
I'm totally sensitive to that kind of thing.
Are you?
It's kind of embarrassing. It's like I cover my eyes during TV. It's like, is it
Oh,
over yet? Totally. I don't want to see that.
and
I don't need to see that. But
so,
there is something about the human beings pay attention to difficult things, and it's a survival factor. I fully believe that it's because we need to stay alive. Like, okay, there's a cliff. Oh, there's a tiger. Like, but
yes,
in the modern life, there's so many things to be triggered about, and so we can spend all our time looking at what's going wrong that we have to train ourselves to notice what's going right. That's kind of like a gratitude practice. Like
yeah,
with the gratitude practice, you have to train yourself like, oh yeah, what will happen today that was really good? And so I kind of look at this approach to dreaming as a kind of a gratitude practice with dreams. And we're looking for the treasure, looking for the good things, looking for those moments of joy. And so we're not going to ignore the nightmares because there's something valuable there.
right,
And, if they're triggered by something outside of myself, yes, that's part of what triggered them. And yet
yeah,
they're probably touching into painful things in me. I wouldn't stick to me if I didn't have Velcro, as they say.
right. Fully.
Yeah, yeah. And so, but I think we can train ourselves to notice the good moments, even in difficult dreams. Sometimes in a difficult dream, there'll be like one moment where it's just like, oh, like, I mean, I could share another dream. That was just like one of these nightmares with all kinds of buildings collapsing, society is just destroyed, rats everywhere. But then I had this moment where I saw this friend of mine staring at the fire. It was like a bonfire. And he's just standing there going, huh, looking at the fire. And
Wow.
that was the moment in the dream. Then I went back to zombies and things like that. But when I was working with the dream later, I'm like, wait a minute, what was that one moment when that guy was looking at the fire? And it became kind of the central image for me of that entire crazy dream. And because and then I can kind of look at the dream, the nightmare, the whole nightmare itself, like it's a bonfire, like something's burning, but I could step back and just look at the fire. Like, wow, that's a fire. Yeah, that's a fire. Okay. And it really changed my whole perspective about the dream and about nightmares in general. Because now when I have a nightmare or something difficult, I can kind of step back and go, yeah, that's on fire. Something's burning.
Right. Well, it sounds super, super helpful. And like your friend's attitude in the dream also sounds super, super helpful, right? Like that is,
Exactly. Well, it was interesting because it was somebody I know from waking life, but I don't know them very well, but I know them from a distance. And where I know them from is from bonfires. Actually drumming around
but
bonfires. And so I was like, somehow I made that connection because that's a joyful thing. It's a joyful kind of a fire. So it's just that one little moment in among this horrific dream. And so even in your difficult dreams, you can sometimes find like these little windows of clarity that can be really helpful. And we have to train ourselves to look at that. Otherwise, I'll go, oh no, I'm not going to look at that. No. And
really, yeah, I think what you're saying is probably one of the most helpful things that we can all kind of do at the moment, because like you're saying, we're so primed and also not even primed. I think currently there's just so much information coming at us,
yeah,
right? So you have to, even if you're very particular about what you're kind of letting in, there's stuff coming in that maybe you wouldn't choose to interact with or whatever the situation is. And so having that consciousness of focusing on things that are helpful so that it can appear, like you're saying, in dreaming, but also in waking life, like, oh, okay, instead of reacting immediately to this thing, just because it's appeared, kind of like it does in dreaming, you're going to take a step back and have a moment to think, oh, wait, is this actually what I want to participate in?
mhm.
And hearing you speak about the fire, I often think what I've been trying to do at the moment is create little, to link that kind of thing to lucidity, because I find that when I'm in a nightmare, it moves so quickly that I often I lose the moment for lucidity. But in that, if you can just find that one thing, like the fire, could be the one thing that
Ah,
helps, because it gives you that moment, that kind of moment to go, wait, like, the slow down slightly. And I have found that that actually did help, has helped me.
oh.
But it may
Well,
just be
that's very interesting. Talk a little bit about lucidity. I think that's very interesting because this sounds like what I've heard called dream signs, where you kind of, it's a clue that you're in a dream. Like I have conference dreams all the time, and I'm
yeah.
like, yeah, I do. And I'm one of the organizers of the ISD.
Yeah, no, I know. That's the plan.
So, and so like I'm starting to think that now that could be one of my dream signs. I'm in a
Yeah.
conference. Oh, maybe I'm dreaming. And so in June when I'm in Oregon, I'll be like, oh, I think I'm dreaming.
Wait, no, Catherine, you here?
Oh, but wait.
Go away.
So what kind of things so you mentioned the fire. Do you have other kinds of dream signs or that help you with lucidity, or what do you want to say about lucidity?
So I do have some helpful dream signs. I have tried, I've read quite a lot on it, and people often recommend getting a bracelet, or something that you wear, which I'm sure you know, but so that it carries through in dreaming. And actually, funnily enough, that has never worked for me.
Oh,
My lucidity often happens because I recognize anomalies. So I'll recognize something that is out of place in a space that I'm usually at, or I'll recognize the transitions happen too quickly, like I'm in my house, but then all of a sudden I'm in the car. And so I've really kind of
mm.
tried to connect lucidly in that way. But I had quite a funny experience, because I sent out lucid dream bracelets for my one dream group. And so I've been wearing it. And then the other night I was having a dream where I was sorting through all these bracelets, found the lucid bracelet and chucked it.
Chucked it. Oh,
It was kind
that's
of
hilarious.
funny.
So the idea of the bracelet is you're supposed to like see it in a dream, and then you're dreaming somehow because it's
Yeah,
okay.
exactly. So and to go, really good to know, right? And then the intention is that, or so I've understood it, is that you wear it all the time, and it's something that you carry with you, so that when you see it, you look down and you're asking yourself, well, is this a dream? And so the hope is that you look at the bracelet in the dream and
Okay,
recognize it.
got
Clearly did not happen for me.
But it sounds like you have another way in, and I know there's many different ways to get into lucid dreaming, and it sounds like the way that you do is you look for scenes, you look for plays when the scene shifts, like a discrepancy when something changes, and then and that helps you recognize that you're dreaming. So then what do you do? What's next? What do you?
So it kind of depends where I find myself. Sometimes I will just let it play out. I will often do Robert Wagner's trick of stabilizing the dream or clearing out symbols. I'll often say, like, symbols clear out, and then
Symbols clear out? I hadn't heard that one. I just
it's a really fun thing to do. You just say, or or whatever version feels good to you. Just say, you could even say dream clear, and then it's very interesting to see what stays.
oh, like what? Like what kind of thing stays?
So I've had experiences where I'll say dream symbols clear, and the landscape will change completely. It will kind of go into not a void space, but it'll doesn't feel uncomfortable at all. But it's almost like blackness around me. But then there might be a dream figure that remains, or a symbol. And then kind of interacting with that has been very interesting. Or I'll prime an intention and try and do something depending on what's happening, and if I can remember what my intention is.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Oh,
so,
interesting.
yeah.
So, would you like to share any of those experiences? I mean, like, what kinds of things have you learned in these states? I'm kind of lucid curious. I've tried so many times, and occasionally I get lucid, but it's just like, I'm lucid, then I'm gone, then I wake up or something.
Oh, I'd love to say that I'm like a super pro at it, but I think we're all like kind of learning. But one of the most interesting experiences that I had with clearing out that dream space is that a dream figure who he at first was a man, and he was in the dream, and he said, "You know how long I've been waiting to have a conversation with you?"
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, and so I said, "Oh, okay," but I was a little I guess overwhelmed is probably the right word. Um, and I was quite overwhelmed. And then all of a sudden, he changed into an animal, changed back into a man. And
Hmm.
then I think he told me something I couldn't remember when I woke up, but in the dream, it was very meaningful. And I said, "Oh, that makes so much sense." And I was kind of lost my lucidity. So but I'm not very and then very just like regular kind of not regular but kind of fun experiences like you were saying. Sometimes I love to fly. I'll fly or I'll go places that I'm interested in seeing, and
Mhm.
so there's a world of possibility. I really feel with lucidity. Yeah.
Now here's a pretty far out question. This is just like where does my mind goes is so when you say dream clear out, symbols clear out, whatever that is, and you're left with something. What's left? Don't know, but
Yeah.
something more real somehow, or something.
Yeah, I would say definitely more real. And I think it depends what kind of camp you fall into, right?
Yeah,
So, from my sort of perspective and belief system, I would say is that
yeah.
I really do feel that we can interact with non physical or spirit, or whatever term you want to use, in dreaming and through dreams. And at the same time, our own awareness is so vast that that dream figure, it could easily be a representation of my own psyche that I'm interacting with. And so I feel part of the way I kind of look at it is that it can be both. And part of the work is discerning between the two and working with that more fully. But I would say that that is I don't know. I think it's a lifelong practice. I mean, I'd be curious to hear what you think it is. Yeah.
It's I don't I sometimes wonder if it's something beyond the self,
Yeah.
like because if how we define self, like the skin is like the edge of our body, but is it really? Because infrared radiation goes out, or magnetic fields go out, and so we say that what we have our a self, but is there really a boundary? But and yet there's something that sometimes feels like it's trying to reach in to me,
Yeah.
and something is trying to connect, and yeah, I'm like, okay, that's I find many ways to run away from these characters in my dreams typically. So
I often have spent a lot of time writing.
yeah, right. And yet when sometimes I can stop, then there's like this sense of deep connection and love, of being loved and being cherished, and the universe is a friendly place. There is a sense of friendliness or something, but it seems personified in a certain way, like as if there is like a being to connect with, something spiritual or religious, or some sort of divine connection. And I I don't, but I'm curious, and so I was very curious to hear what your take on that was. So that was helpful.
Thank you. I really do feel, I mean, I guess maybe also from all the people that I've spoken with or to, a lot of, I'm sure you also have this experience often where if you tell people, well, what do you do? And then they'll tell you a dream that they had of like their late mother coming through. And even if the dream, the dream may just be comforting, they're loved, they're safe, that feeling that you were saying, that there's actually like benevolence, and the universe is a friendly place, and we're maybe more connected than we perceive. And so I do think our boundaries, like you were saying, of perception are much thinner than we think.
Mhm.
And I do think that what I love about dreaming is that it's like your handle, it's very experimental. No one has to. I was feeling, you tell me what you think, because maybe your experience is so different in a way, and but I love that it kind of comes down to possibility, that there's this possibility that these things are really, maybe really be happening.
Mhm.
I interviewed a long time ago. This was still when I lived in South Africa, and I did I was working for Cosmo, and um, I forget her name now, but she's a medical correspondent for one of the news channels here in the US. And her husband, um, sadly, he jumped off the Brooklyn Bridge, and he obviously passed away. But they had been divorced at the time. And the morning she shared this, and it's actually in her book, which I can't remember the title, but I'll share it with you after. He had a dream coming out of the passage of sleep, right? The hypnopompic. And she saw him dressed, sitting at the end of the bed. At the end of the bed, he told her details about like what he wanted her to share to their children, told her information where to find things, like
Oh, wow.
documents. And obviously it was a very distressing time for her. And her one colleague is a medical examiner, and he examined the body, and her husband was wearing the clothing she
Oh, woo.
yeah, right.
Wow.
And she started the conversation. Oh, the book is, I think, Life After Suicide. I think that's the title.
Okay.
So it's a bit intense, the dream share, but so it's such a pivotal big dream. And she said that she was really someone who didn't believe in the possibility of that, because she was an MD. Her work kind of requires her to think in a very specific way. And so, I think that changed that for her. So I don't know, how it happens, but I think it does.
Well, and that's a good example of one of the things that might be coming in the dream. That's not just a symbol. That's not a reflection of who we are. Is visitations from loved ones who have passed, because that's something that there's a lot of documentation about. A lot of people have experienced that, and it's that may be part of what we're connecting with in our sleep. So Athena Laz, we are getting down to the end here, and I wonder, do you have any? So your webpage, athenalaz.com. Do you have anything you want to share with the listeners about what's coming up? Oh yeah, and your new book is called.
It's called Women Who Dance in the Dark. Awaken your inner seer through missed dreams and stories. And it's for everyone. So
Not just for women.
Not just for women.
Okay, so that's wonderful. Do you have any last minute encouragement for our listeners that you'd like to share as we wrap up?
I would just say, if this hasn't already inspired you to pay attention to your dreams, hopefully it has not made you run away from them. It's a good thing to do.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Athena. This has been a wonderful conversation. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Katherine. It's been wonderful to connect.
All right. And thank you all for listening. The Dream Journal is produced at the studios of KSQD in Santa Cruz, and we are live every Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific at ksqd.org. The podcast is released on the Monday after the show. It spreads interest in dreaming when you subscribe, rate, and review. I am Katherine Bell. You can find out about my dream coaching practice at experientialdreamwork.com. Email me at katherine@ksqd.org, KATHERINE. Follow Experiential Dreamwork and hashtag The Dream Journal on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and now on YouTube. I'd like to thank Rick Kleffel, engineer and music creator, Nyanko Nyasu, engineer extraordinaire. Audio editing by Suki Westling, phones by Eric Nelson. Intro and outro pieces are both by Mood Science. And tomorrow morning when you wake up, take a minute to write down your dream and bring it to the next Dream Journal.
that so much is wrong, but much more is right. We see in the darkness by shine.